Welcome, everyone. I am Chris Gore. I am nursing my Oscar hangover, as I'm sure you are. Tons of news about the Oscars, not just the winners, the fallout from those who won. Some people are upset. Robbed was trending. I'm not talking about Robert Meyer Burnett, but he will be here. Robbed was trending on social media. Let's talk about it. Amazing group of guests. Let's go. It's Versus on a Monday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Let's get things started. Let's go. Yeah, we made it. Woo! Yeah. We survived the Oscars 2024. Oh my God. Rob, you might want to say a few things after what you were telling us. Before we do quick intros, last night you were smashed.
I was smashed. I got smashed. I hadn't drank in a long time, and I got smashed on the show last night. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Although I didn't know that one of our esteemed panelists used to be a bartender. And I felt, I love an old fashioned. And I do stand by those. Normally, I would never buy a pre-mixed cocktail at a store. However, those versions, those Nob Hill pre-mixed cocktails, are chock-a-block full of liquor. Usually, they always skimp on the booze.
Knob Creek or not? Or
Knob Creek. Yeah, did I say Nob Hill? Knob
Yeah.
Creek. Yeah, they're really good. No, they do not sponsor this show, and nor does Film Threat have any. I don't believe so. I'm just saying I like them. When I'm not trying to do a commercial. But yes,
in all fairness, Knob Creek it's not a bad brand. It's not a bad brand.
Yeah,
So.
pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
So I'm just saying I had two of those, and usually one puts me away. Two puts me away further.
I was a bartender.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was a bartender at a golf course, and you get the assholes coming up to you like pranking you, all the old guys. So you're young, right? And some old guy comes up and says, "I'd like a very dry martini." Okay, well, how dry? Well, I'll tell you. Okay, grab that vodka, right? Okay, put it in the glass. Good. Take that thing of vermouth. Okay, fine. Shake it a bit. Good. Uncork it. Fine. Now wave the cork over the glass. There's and you could just tell that he has said this gag 50 times in his life.
Oh yeah, man. The old timers were the worst, man. You know, they'd ask for that or a rusty nail.
Yeah.
God, who the hell orders a rusty nail these days?
It's the same era of guy. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but he would go up to women and go, "I bet you for 25 cents I could touch your breasts without touching your shirt."
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd that
you know, you're right.
And for a quarter, yeah.
For a quarter. You know, Riot, you've heard like these guys, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And then half the women would go, "What? Yeah, sure. Go ahead." And then he'd go, "Okay, here's a quarter."
I will say this. It is.
We're already canceled, and the show's just.
I lived in a classy time. Let me tell you.
There is a place. Chris knows this bar well. The Frolic Room. Here
Yes.
Now, if you go to the Frolic Room on a Sunday afternoon, like early, it is a true alcoholics, like old school, years long alcoholism. It's a true place to go to drink with real alcoholics.
That's tragic.
Or it's fun as hell because you get so much material to write with. You know, I mean, the dialogue that comes out. I've not that I've ever done that. No,
it's like walking into a Bukowski movie or Bukowski short.
It's Barfly. It's Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway and Barfly.
You know,
Foster Brooks washroom.
Yeah,
100%. All right, hey, let's do some quick intros here. Lineup is Script Doctor has made it.
Yeah, honored to be here.
Robert Meyer Burnett. The Paul Dato. Verbal Riot. And Lofty Pixels.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Let's go.
All right, everybody. The Oscars happened last night. Oh, here we go. Godzilla. Love that one. That's a classic.
That's great.
So the Oscars were last night. We talked a lot on the Film Threat Watch Party, which is, of course, archive. But I want to ask in this Oscar battle, who won? We can go by the numbers. Oppenheimer, 7 Oscars. Barbie had 1 Oscar, and Killers of the Flower Moon, 0. You could go by those numbers. Winners and losers. Thoughts?
Scorsese hasn't won an Oscar in 26 nominations, going back to Wolf of Wall Street. He's a loser, probably. I like Flower Moon a lot, but yeah, that's it's not a good streak.
Would you recommend it? It seemed kind of turgid.
I think it's amazing.
Okay.
You have to be one of the, has to be like some people are not willing to sit with a movie and let it kind of like wash over them. It's like it's like the banality of evil is kind of the point. So it's like you're supposed to sit with these evil people for 3 hours and just like let them be evil.
No.
It's I love it. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to bring up the list and see if there's I don't think there were many surprises. The big surprise was, we were talking about it before the scream, is in the actress category.
Yeah.
For sure.
Actress in a leading role, Emma Stone won. Now, she had previously won at the Globes and at the Critics' Choice Awards, which are very good predictors of who's going to win at the big event. But Lily Gladstone, Robbed was trending. Robbed was trending, and people were complaining. What do you think about that? My issue with Lily Gladstone is it's a great performance.
It is.
It's a supporting performance. It's not a leading role performance.
I agree.
What do you guys think?
I
100%.
totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that for the screen time that she had, she did an amazing job. But outside of that, it wasn't. Emma Stone played a lead. That was a lead. And
not easy to do.
Exactly. And I think Emma deserved it. She earned it. I don't think there was any kind of snub or rob.
No. I'll tell you that Carey Mulligan did a better, similar character to Lily in Maestro. They both had very similar character arcs. They both got sick and had to play like a range of emotions. And Carrie had more screen time, and she also was more dynamic on screen. I think Carrie should have won, but I think Emma was really good in Poor Things. I don't know. Carrie just blew me away in Maestro. It made me cry. Did you guys see her performance or?
Oh yeah, no, I
yeah.
saw all the films. She's very good. I just think the thing with Bradley Cooper, it just seemed so ham-fisted, where like some of the scenes where he's just like, and they're casually doing the cocktail party, and he's like chewing the scenery, which includes, I mean, the makeup did a lot of the act. The makeup was spectacular for Maestro. And the sort of just like salivating over the
well, Leonard Bernstein was a self-indulgent character. I think it fit the mood of the piece. I think it was perfect.
Well, I mean, it works for Bradley Cooper because when it comes to this space where they talk about actors with elite and pretentious mentalities, Bradley Cooper is the best of that. Yeah. Like that is exactly what he is. He is everything a lot of other people would normally hate, but he also makes some pretty good performances here and there.
No, but Bradley does.
He was really involved with this film.
Bradley does get a lot of hate though, and I think it's unnecessary. People accuse him of Oscar baiting and the whole deal. But everyone Oscar baits. Everyone that was nominated Oscar baited.
Yeah. The Oscar baited is a new word. Oscar baited hashtag.
Christopher Nolan pulled in as many star power as he could for that movie. I mean, if that's not Oscar bait, I don't know what is.
Exactly.
He had like 25 like famous people on that movie.
But for some reason,
Louis C.K. Oscar baited in front of women, didn't he?
Yes.
Oh,
he did, but he didn't get his award.
We've just been joined late by Ramesh. He's here. What's going on, Ramesh?
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you. Hey, your podcast. Wait, let me keep you there solo because you're being your podcast. Make sure people know about it.
It's so here's my theory, and we're coming back up with a new episode next week, and we do like just funny theories, like what if Indiana Jones was Tom Selleck and not Harrison Ford? That's a new one we're working on there. Or films going in the deep end versus the shallow end of the pool and that sort of thing. So they're fun little topics we come up with, and we deep dive into movies you've probably never heard of. So you have to keep up. And I work as a commercial director So I work in the industry, so don't hate me. And I'm on Instagram at Bon Iyer, where I post my latest stuff.
I have a sweet spot in my heart for commercial directors. I got a lot of work in commercials in my time, especially when one guy tagged me and he would go through the entire auditions of everybody, and then at the very end, when he go, just get Paul in.
I recently, just as an aside, not to hijack this, I recently met this woman who runs a music video division, and she started as the assistant to Tony Scott.
Oh
and
my
so
God.
I was asking her, and she worked on True Romance to the Fan, right? And I asked her, what is the difference between Tony and Ridley Scott? Because I'm a huge Tony Scott fan. I have a friend who's a Ridley Scott fan, but I love Tony Scott. And she said, Tony Scott was the sweetest guy. He was very collaborative. He loved everyone to come in with ideas and everything. And that's something you don't think of, right? The kind of movies he did. But anyway, so I miss his movies.
And commercial directors make a lot more money than indie directors.
Yes, they do.
What's that, R&B?
I said commercial directors make a lot more money than indie feature directors do.
100%. It's funny. I was at a party and I met this indie director. I was like, I really want to do what you want to do, what you do. And he was like, I really want to do what you do.
Yeah.
We're in our siloed, and the grass is always greener on the other side of the septic tank. So.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
We're talking the fallouts from the Oscars. You were texting me furiously, and I'm sorry we didn't have room during the watch party, Ramesh, but you were texting me a ton of stuff. What are your takeaways, thoughts on the Oscar battle? We all know Oppenheimer got the most wins. 7 out of the 13 nominations were won. And then a lot of things Robbed was trending on Twitter. I'm going to find some of these tweets because they're hilarious. But what
I like the wins I like the wins that came through. This Oscars felt like it was actually something worth watching.
Plus, I agree.
I think so too.
Entertaining and deserved, right? Most of the wins were. I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. I think what they could improve is, it's easy to bash the Oscars, but I thought they did a great job. I think they were not political for a long time and were more inclusive. But I do feel that the best picture nominee should not be all throughout. I think they should wait till the end, have that person do the whole thing, because I think you lose momentum if you show it all the way through, and then maybe not have 100-year-old, he's not 100-year-old actor present it. Maybe have a kid actor present it, at the end. I don't know. That was one of the ideas. But yeah, I thought it was great. And
when Pacino was less intelligible than the guy accepting the Godzilla award, you're in trouble.
Right.
You also look more like the Penguin than Danny DeVito did.
That was great.
Oh my gosh.
How great was it seeing the
twins? I love seeing the twins though. That was great.
That was good.
The Godzilla people coming up was a highlight.
Oh God, yeah.
That was good.
Golden Godzilla. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish we could have better understood what he was saying, unfortunately, when he was reading and he was rushed. He was trying to get the paper out. And then, because I rewatched the Oscars last night after our watch party, because I'm a glutton for punishment. But I did miss some stuff. He had to hand his Godzilla off, grab the paper. By the time he sort of futzed around, half his time was gone. And then, he kind of stumbled through.
He should post it now. He should post it on Twitter.
He talked about the inspirations of Star Wars and a couple of other of the classics that we all like. I picked that part up, and he was talking about editing and the directors, but again, he was also played off a little bit, and I think he was blown away by the fact that they won. I don't think
he was nervous as hell.
And the entire country of Japan is like dancing a jig today. They must be so excited.
Right. Yeah. No, and like Emma Stone, I'm so happy she won. And I know that may have been controversial for some people, but I think she was the best. She was the person that deserved to win for that.
Yeah. And the director of American Fiction.
Oh God, great.
That speech was
oh
really
my
inspirational.
Gosh.
Oh, right. It was the best speech. It's funny because there's another movie very similar to it called Dream Scenario that I actually thought was a better film and didn't get nominated.
Yeah.
And I didn't love American Fiction, but I loved his speech.
Yeah.
That was the best speech.
Yeah.
It was basically just calling out the industry. That's what it was. It's like, why are you making all these dumb, expensive movies, just frickin' make a $10 million movie.
And you have Godzilla, right? $15 million.
Less. And then on top of that, he also said there are other Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, like all the greatest directors. He said they're out there, and he's not wrong. They are out there, but you're not spending the reasonable budgets amount out there to show the rest of the world that they're out there.
Well, the problem is they try to, and then they lose money, like the Northman. Robert Eggers has never been profitable for anyone, but he's probably like the closest thing we have to like Kubrick to working today. But yeah, I think, and streamers are taking more risks, streaming services, on artistic, cheaper stuff. But as far as like theater, yeah, they're just like $250 million for the Marvels.
But they're the only ones who are taking the risk. It's only the streaming services. The big studios are not taking risk.
Well,
it's weird to even think that, but yeah, like I'm 3 episodes into 3 Body Problem for Netflix. Kind of sketchy for the first 2 episodes. That 3rd episode where they basically give you a glimpse into the mystery box they've been teasing is glorious. I'm going to talk about it on Wednesday. I'll have seen all the episodes by then. Rob,
by the way, have we gotten the ratings for last night?
We have not gotten the ratings. I'll look it up. Alan, and I should say this, my apologies. I don't have Alan here today, so I'm a little, Alan is always helps me out, so I'm going to do my best without Alan. Alan is at the South by Southwest Film Festival. He is seeing the movie Monkey Man, and he's going to tell us about it on Wednesday. And we're going to go to your chat comments and questions. There are a lot before I promise to get to those. I'm a little discombobulated, but a couple quick on Twitter right here. Regarding Lily Gladstone, this really was, people were arguing. Nick Zednick says this timeline is brutal. Let's get one thing straight. Emma Stone did not win her 2nd Oscar over Lily Gladstone because of race. That's not what happened.
Right.
That's not what happened.
Yeah.
Emma won because she gave a more show-stopping performance, and because I blew up the text way too large, and was the movie. That's all. Move on.
So who's bringing in the
people were fighting over Lily Gladstone. Here's another good one. I know David Poland here. Shout out to him. He does a Substack called the Hot Button. He's like an industry insider that is very unemotional. I've known David for more than 20 years. He just is like,
I sold him some posters once. Big framed movie posters. Yeah.
Great guy. He kind of goes where the facts are. He says, David Poland says, why did Emma Stone win the Oscar instead of Lily Gladstone? The majority of Oscar voters thought Stone gave a better performance, period. Would Lily Gladstone have won the Oscar pundit / film Twitter award? Probably, but such an award does not exist. So,
well, also, I think you brought it up, Chris, in the beginning of this stream. I mean, she really was playing a supporting role. Whereas Emma Stone was front and center, and what she was required to do for that role as an actress, not just her sex scenes or anything like that, but everything. I mean, she created an indelible character that is a real showstopper of a performance. And, that's not an easy thing to do. And that's why she won that award.
Not just that, it was a full frontal performance. That's what you can't deny that aspect of the movie. Who here has seen Poor Things besides Rob and I?
I did. I hate that movie.
Great.
Okay,
I read the script, but I'm seeing it this weekend. So
totally fair to not like that movie. It was very divisive.
So
on first screen, on repeat viewings, I really you see the layers to it. The shocking sex scenes kind of like melt away, and you actually see what the story is, more nuances to the story, and it's a much better film on first.
Like personally, I didn't like it, but I can't say it's a bad film.
It's not a bad movie.
What do you like about it, Lofty? What was it? Who would you have wanted to win?
I'm a big Yorgos fan. I love all his movies.
Right.
Oh, wow.
This is a self-indulgent feminist nonsense. The entire movie. All the men are horrible, disgusting human beings. The only one that actually she can be with is like this pathetic cuck character who's like, gonna fight the guy that like wants to take her out. And then her kid, she's amazing, and the production design. But like the movie is it repeats the same like edgy jokes over and over and over and over again. The middle, Mark Ruffalo the worst performance maybe I've ever seen in my entire life. He is so monotone and pathetic. I don't know why he was nominated.
Same.
I don't understand. The movie's fine. It's just, he's done more sophisticated movies. I think The Favorite is a much better film. But I don't know. I just don't. I didn't like the themes of this movie and the over the top gratuitous.
But that's kind of a European thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
I mean, have you seen Taxidermia?
Yeah. I've seen all his movies. I've seen Dogtooth. That's over the top gratuitous. I don't really like that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lofty. You could have a woman finding her agency without having all the men sort of be
too much. It's just too much. And it's like, the guy's a goat at the end. It's like, I get it. The whole movie is like just repeating the same themes over and over and over. It's like bashing you in the head with it. I don't know. That's just my takeaway, but a lot of people liked it.
I would argue with you. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. There's some breaking news here. Story from Variety on Twitter. Al Pacino has issued a statement amid questions surrounding his appearance during the 2024 Oscars ceremony, during which he did not list any of this year's 10 nominees for Best Picture.
I was wondering about that.
And here's his statement. I just want to be clear. It was not my intention to omit them, rather a choice by the producers not to have them said again since they were highlighted individually throughout the ceremony.
Sounds like his PR talking.
Yeah, that was the worst Al Pacino impression.
Okay.
My eyes. What do my eyes see?
That was a choice by the producers then to do that. Everyone was saying he forgot, he's
Well,
anyways,
then
why
not put a slate behind him listing all the nominees?
Right. They could have done a Chiron or just some graphic.
Chiron? What freaking era are you from? Jesus Christ.
Some beta tapes.
Wedding singer.
Well, yeah, you're right, Paul. That's a good one.
They were pre-recorded though. Like every single person presenting had pre-recorded what they were going to say for the nominees because you could hear they were pre-recorded. David Allen Greer was the only one that was stumbling over his words, and also I think one of the best supporting actor, one of the last year's winners of the best supporting actors, flubbed a line, and RDJ made a joke about that, which I thought was funny. But did they just not get Al Pacino to record into a mic? These are the 10 nominees as they normally do for these types of shows because they don't always read them out loud. It goes to the recorded tape that shows the nominees, and then he starts speaking about who the actual winner is. It seems like the whole thing was just cut at the very end because they were only over by 7 minutes from their initially planned time. If I'm not mistaken.
Bad. Relatively. Yeah. Another big story from the awards that I want to point out. And we started talking about it, Rob, and I think that you might have been 7 old fashions in and we forgot
probably
about it. But this is interesting regarding the holdovers. Okay. I'm just
oh no, I remember yes.
So Alexander Payne's The Holdovers was accused of plagiarism by the Luca writer. And not only that, there were screenshots. This story is in Variety. We'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, what was this about?
Okay, so Rob, you know more about this than I do.
I do too.
Well, yeah, I mean, this
good. I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, the doctor probably even knows more than I do. It's just a screenwriter who wrote a script in 2013 that was submitted to Alexander Payne on he had multiple time to read it. He'd read it. And it's very similar in story. It's a different profession, but very similar in story to what eventually became the Holdovers. And there's a lot of scenes that seem to have been cribbed from this earlier script. And that's what I know.
How does that happen? And script, like you said, a little bit more about this. I mean, look, there are things in the zeitgeist where people have similar ideas to asteroid movies, to those things do happen.
Even Gravity, right?
Well, yeah. Like intentional theft in Hollywood is incredibly rare. It usually only comes from very indie adjacent studios like Asylum. Like they're known for stealing tons of stuff. And they've paid out and they've had cease and desist orders issued to them many times. In this case here, the original writer of Luca, he wrote a screenplay that made it into the top echelons of the blacklist in 2013. and it was getting shopped around. And on 2 separate occasions, there is email chain and conversational chain between that writer and the director of the Holdovers. So you actually have proof of communication with regards to this particular script. And then, those deals just fell through, as deals always do in town. Now, what ended up happening is that the director, Payne, he did the Holdovers he brought in another writer and they workshopped an idea and they developed the script and they made the Holdovers, and then it got released. And because it was kind of like another indie type of film, nobody was really sharing that screenplay around town like they do all the times whenever there's kind of a big, exciting movie like they do. So this Luca writer never got wind of it, and he only found out about it after the fact. And he has petitioned the WGA, which the WGA's rules are basically like, well, it's already been produced. There's not much we can do right now. So it has to go to the normal court process. And when the court does the process, then it goes back to the WGA. If he found out about it before production ran and he went to the WGA, that would then go into arbitration, because then it'd be about who gets the credits, who gets the negotiation, who gets the money, and so forth. And now we're seeing a very rare example of a writer who has gone through the movie and gone through his script and has composited a 33-page report detailing the similarities and the few little differences, but also acknowledging the fact that he is willing to entertain that, yes, certain ideas can be very similar, and that's not unheard of, but there's too many examples here to make that considered to be similar, and not similar as an accident and not almost deliberate, whether it's passively deliberate or intentionally deliberate, where the Payne remembered all those great lines but couldn't identify where they're from, so he decided to use it in his movie. That's one thing, but that's not really going to help him in this case if it ends up being further proven that he did lift it. But regardless of the fact that it is actually a very controversial aspect, and Payne should be very lucky that he didn't win an Oscar, because that would have escalated the urgency of this accusation even further, because now you've got an Academy Award winning writer and director who won something for allegedly a piece of work that's not actually his.
So what's the worst thing that can happen, Script?
Yeah.
Well, the worst thing that could happen is that Payne gets is either exposed, or if the truth is that Payne actually cribbed this, that will damage his reputation. And what will end up happening is that restitution will have to go to the writer, up to and including possibly a changing of credits on that film for further distribution, which means that deals for distribution will have to be revised to include that new writer.
Wow.
The lesser side of things might be the Harlan Ellison issue that happened with Terminator way back when, where his name's at the end credits. I can't really fathom too much of what else would happen, because there's been so few of these types of situations. There's not really a model to base it off of.
Do you guys think that this controversy hurt Giamatti? Is that why he didn't win?
No.
Oh.
No, because it just dropped. It dropped this past weekend.
It dropped after the voting had been completed, essentially.
No. The complaint was filed in January. So people in the industry whisper. I think it probably hurt Giamatti. It was too late for things like the CCA and the Golden Globes. So that was fine. But I'm telling you, people in the gossip, Rob, the gossip that you hear in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
You hear gossip. Mm-hmm. We all hear gossip. Ramesh, Ramesh has told me things that would make your toes curl. He really has. Incredible gossipy story. No. But you know what I mean? It's like you hear those things. You're like, oh, wow. I'm very skeptical, on stuff. It's like, no, not really. I'm not sure about that. But I'm going to guess that it probably leaked out, and I'll bet it affected it after he had won those awards.
I have the 2013 script in my possession. So I can read it, and then I can watch the Holdovers, and I can make a very objective assessment of that. And I might do that in the near future.
But I think you're right, Script. Like, these cases of script ideas being stolen is so rare because it's so easy to prove, right? That I just think it's a lot of people do have similar ideas. They just, how many stories, you know what I mean? So
they're a living entity that are in the ether, and it's sort of like an idea wants to get made, right? And someone's gonna make that idea.
Me and one of my best friends, when we were on other sides of the continent, we pitched to the same studio a near identical take on a story of an IP for an OWA. And it was when we found out later, months later, we were laughing because it's like, oh yeah, we hadn't talked up until that point, and then we talked afterwards, and it was just accidental. But the other aspect too is that you really only find those types of thefts in really small areas of the independent sphere, because those people are so desperate to try and make a mark to get attention from the higher tiers. They think that any great story that they get to and get made first or better will do that. They don't think about the next step afterwards, which is that the people that were interested in you from that higher tier are expecting you to deliver again. And if you didn't get there authentically, you're not going to deliver again with something else afterwards, because they're going to be rating you on the previous one. So if you stole someone else's story that was a thriller and they ask you for another thriller and you deliver a thriller that's tame in comparison to the first one, they're going to see through you. They're going to have questions about that. And if you can't keep on delivering, they're going to then not use you anymore, and to the point where you just for that one-hit wonder.
Well, and there's also the point of the number of really bad writers out there writing. I read more than 1,100 scripts when I was in the business. And if I did not greenlight a single one, I'd have a perfect record.
So that's interesting, because
and the stuff was shit. Like 99% of it, and they were all, so many of them were the same. And I had an interesting take, is that the more the script was protected, either registered email sent, and it's all listed, registered email sent back to the writer, WGA registered, this is up my wife's ass and has been locked with plaster of Paris and everything else, the worse the script was.
Well, how do you think a lot of the what percentage of those make it, those bad writers make it in the industry?
I don't think any of the ones that I read.
No, and I was a script reader. I was a story analyst for years in the 90s. And I probably read 3,000 scripts professionally that I did coverage on. I only said, of those 3,000 scripts, there was a few I recommended, but I only said yes to one.
Wow.
One.
And
that was David. That was why am I drawing a blank on his name? That was Seven. It was a script for Seven.
Wow.
And when I said that, I was working at Silver Pictures, and for Joel Silver, and that script came in from he's now a director himself named Gavin Pallone, and everything he sent over was actually pretty good, and most of it got made. But I read that script, and Andy Kevin Walker is the name of the writer, and I mean, I can tell you more. I can tell you the name of the worst script I ever read too, which was The First Jewish Evangelist. That was the worst screenplay. And this, I kid you not, Heaven needs to find someone who's Jewish to put on a telethon to raise money to repair the wall between heaven and hell that's fallen into disrepair. So they figure they need a Jew to go do it.
That's pretty original.
But everything about that makes no sense.
Well, listen, I recently talked to the Luke Cage showrunner on a podcast, and he was grateful enough to come on and talk to us. He's also the writer of the Netflix show. And then simultaneously I was trying to get Joe Russo to come on. The guy, this is not the Joe Russo, it's the guy who wrote the script of Bruce Willis's last movie that was controversial. Hard Kill.
Yeah.
And so the Luke Cage guy was nice enough to come on, and the other guy, Joe Russo, was calling everybody out on Twitter, me, Gary, and Nerdrotic, for daring to say that the writers of Madam Web were bad writers, and that Hollywood has some bad writers. And it was his, I don't know, you guys maybe can talk about this, but like, he was trying to make the point that there are no bad writers in Hollywood because it's really hard to make to submit a script and get accepted in Hollywood. So therefore all of the ones that get accepted are good writers. And it was it's so stupid. And go ahead.
It's more complicated than that. I'll put it to you this way. The ones that you're seeing being made are the best of the bunch that are by the perspective of the people buying it. It's not necessarily objectively best overall. Like, I will say this publicly, it won't dox me because I was one of 1,000 people that did this, but I lost out to writing Power Rangers movies to those guys that wrote Madam Web. And to this day, people who have read that script have said it is far better, and Lionsgate was stupid to not hire me for my pitch.
That's the guy that's
the way it works.
That's the guy that has the worst career in Hollywood right now. Is the Madam Web, Morbius, Power Rangers, Gods of Egypt guy. And people, all these writers were saying how it's not their fault. It's not his fault that his career sucks and then he has like nothing to show for it. It's always the studio intervention problem. And it's like, yeah, okay, but that's fair. We criticize Disney all the time. Everybody criticizes studio intervention when there's stupid product placement and nonsense or whatever. But
and it's just a
dialogue,
man.
Yeah, and you can't just say that you're not open for criticism. You can't say that your work is you can't criticize writers' work because I can just watch Madam Web. Somebody wrote that shit dialogue. It wasn't a producer, it was a writer, and the dialogue is horrible. And it didn't have to be. And it's just embarrassing that
but from writing the script to making the film is 1,000 miles. There's so much
1,000 cuts.
1,000 cuts. I mean, we even said on the Madam Web podcast we were talking about, I felt like the studio saw some of the footage and cut bait and ran. They didn't.
Well,
you had the DP from Avatar and Training Day shooting that movie.
There's nothing worse than having a studio exec who thinks they're creative and thinks they're collaborating with the writer and offering the absolute worst ideas possible.
Yeah.
It's a terrible situation to write under. It's really not very good. Now, I was mostly network TV, but my trick, which I learned, was everything the network exec would say, I learned to go, that is a great idea. Oh my God, that is fantastic. And then I went back and did nothing, and I would hand it back in. I put in all your changes, and they'd go, oh, wow, this is so good.
Yeah.
Shadow, do you think the creative producer is a dying breed?
Yeah.
Robert Evans, right? Or even Charles Roven, right?
Yeah.
Last night. He was great. He's a creative producer. But do you think that's a rare breed now?
Yep.
Dakota Johnson came out and was basically shitting on creative producers recently. Dakota Johnson was saying how they need to give more creative control to the writers, I guess. But Madam Web actress.
Well, it's not so much control. You need more synergy. There's not many creative producers, directors, and writers that are on the same page when it comes to the approach of a project. There's always seems to be a tug of war there, and that usually happens with OWAs. So, Madam Web is an OWA. Somebody, Amy Pascal was looking for the best pitch for a Madam Web film. Those two guys pitched it. They got a director from TV. Jessica Jones, who did primarily television. And don't get me wrong, it was cinematic level television, but it just was not. It's not the same setup that you get in a feature film.
So why is this guy who has nothing but terrible movies under his belt? Madam Web, Morbius, Gods of Egypt, The Last Witch Hunter. Why should he be proud of his work and his career? Why are these
script? Read the original script. I don't know the original script.
Why does he keep going back to these? Why does he keep doing it over and over again, knowing he's going to get his work destroyed by the system?
I'm sorry, but I'm going to call bullshit on this, because there's studio involvement in any movie that comes out in the theater. There's always going to be studio.
He has to be a bad writer.
Studio involvement in Iron Man, but we all loved it, right?
Yeah.
So that studio involvement thing is valid to a certain point.
Yeah, you can't use
that.
When
you have 7 flops.
When
you have 7 flops, I'm sorry, you guys start questioning your writing.
Yes. Thank you.
It's not just studio involvement. You do a Tom Cruise pass of the script. You do a villain pass. You do there's so right. I mean, Chateau and R&B, you can speak to this probably better.
Not only that,
but also,
many
it's also, you want to get people that are passionate about the movie that was being made. The director of that film was a TV director. She's certainly going to take a shot doing a feature if she's offered a feature.
Yep.
But making a feature film for a TV director is way different than a passionate film director making something, because on television, many of the creative choices that a director of a feature film will be making have already been made for you. When you're a TV director, you walk in, it's basically, I hate to say it, like directing traffic, because the characters are already cast, the look of the film or the look of the show is done, the DP's there, your first AD is already running the set. There's very few creative decisions that a TV director gets to make. And then she was kind of thrown into the deep end of the pool in making what was essentially a studio tentpole picture, where you've got the studio itself breathing down everyone's neck because it's part of a franchise. What's crazy to me about a movie like Madam Web is, A franchise picture like Madam Web needs somebody who's passionate and will make it their life's work to make you the best Madam Web movie possible. But it's almost impossible to find that because you're dealing with a situation where the studio sees this as part of a ongoing tentpole, and they would much rather retain as much control over it as they can. But the thing is, there's nobody at the studio who's making movies, so they don't even know how to make what it is they're trying to make.
And I don't think it's just a TV director, right? Because it's a TV director who did not do pilots. So I remember Spielberg saying, who came from TV, he's like, always do the pilot, right? He did Columbo, the Murder by the Book, and then he did some other pilots, and then he also did Duel, right, which actually was a made-for-TV movie, I think,
which gave directors great opportunities, especially in the 70s, because they were so important. Made-for-TV movies were very important to the studios.
But these days, good luck getting the pilot because they always go after David Nutter. Like that.
Chris wants something.
Real quick, couple quick comments. I agree with all we were talking earlier about stuff being stolen. This happens at a lower level all the time, which explains movies like Planet Dune with Sean Young from Asylum, which I think you can watch on Vudu or Tubi for free. These are terrible movies, but David Lynch wrote a really good book about all of this called Catching the Big Fish. And it's about where ideas come from. And he explains that transcendental meditation can kind of get you in the zone where you can pick up things that are in the zeitgeist, except a lot of people can do that. So that's why you get similar concepts, ideas, and whatnot. So I think that's really interesting. I want to go through some of the chat real quick, and then there's other topics I have here, Oscar related. I'm really excited to talk about.
When you're done that, I can answer Lofty's pixels about the writers repeatedly working at Sony. I can answer that after you do your chat.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
Just do it right now. And then we'll get to the
they're probably great. They're probably great, solid draft writers, and they're probably very cooperative with updating the scripts with the notes from the producers, and that's why they probably keep getting work. They are probably told, okay, we need to change this, and they're like, yes, let's go, let's do it, and they get it done, and they get it done in a reasonable amount of time.
They work well with others, and you don't know how many other people are getting hired to rewrite.
Exactly. They probably work excellently with them. They have a great rapport with the producers as well, because they know I'm going to tell this guy or this pair that I want this in the script, and they're not going to get any pushback. They're going to do it, and they're going to do it the best they can. It doesn't matter if its quality is good or not. They just know that they're going to do it.
that makes sense to me. So what you're saying is in a nicer way. You're saying they're a bunch of yes men who I have no reason to respect their work or what they do. And I think that these people should die off.
Well, I would say they're certainly not pushing their bosses with better product.
Yes.
Right.
That's the point.
To its furthest
point. And then these people are yelling at Dakota Johnson and Jenna Ortega for daring to rewrite the scripts for them because their characters don't do what they want them to do.
Well, what's funny is that the people accusing Jenna Ortega did not work on Wednesday. In fact, Al Goff and Miles Miller were fine with Jenna Ortega saying this is not to the character. It was other writers outside of that show taking insult to that because they weren't thinking collaboratively. Because that's the other part too. If a producer gives me a note and I think it's terrible, my job as a writer is to try and make that terrible idea as best as possible to work within the confines of the script. And if you hope the producer I then tell them it's going to increase the budget by 40%.
I mean, if you're a writer and your producer's Irving Thalberg, you know you got to write something good,
right?
I mean.
Now look, we could sit here and
anyway, sorry, keep going.
We'll make fun. No, don't be sorry at all. We can make fun of the Oscars all day, which that's what we did last night for 6 hours. But one of the best moments of the Oscars was Godzilla -1 winning for best visual effects.
Yeah.
Here, and thank you, Ms. Pete Coffee, for finding this. It's the two Godzilla directors met with their respective Godzillas. The director of Godzilla X Kong, Adam Wingard, and then of course the director Takashi Yamazaki from Godzilla -1. I prefer look, I haven't seen Godzilla X Kong yet. The trailer doesn't look promising, but that's pretty cool that they met up. That pictures on Instagram, so thank you for that. That was really good. So some positive news here.
They had a gold Godzilla with a bow tie figure that they brought up on the stage. It was nice.
I just think it's so great to see Godzilla get all this love, well-deserved love, because Godzilla's a niche thing. I mean, I saw Godzilla versus the Smog Monster at a time when my mom would drop me off at the movie theater, like in the 70s, to go see an afternoon matinee because it was like $1. I know. And I trudged through 3 feet of snow when I went to school. Actually did walk to school. Anyways, but like Godzilla is like this thing from my childhood. But technically speaking, has there really been a great Godzilla movie? There have been ones, the very first one, 1954, yes. And then there have been highlights here and there. Godzilla versus the Astro Monster, the one with Planet X, with the amazing, I always forget her name. She's so stunning and beautiful.
Stunning and Brave?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of her name too.
Yeah, but
you know, the
thing
thing is,
the great Raymond Burr, Ironside was in.
Well, there you go. And
hey, speaking of Canadian,
well, they added him for American audiences,
right? Of course. Yeah.
But I was going to say, you know, Chris, when it comes to Godzilla, you know, they've never tried to make the kind of movie. Shin Godzilla had a little bit of that, the original Godzilla, but Godzilla has become much more of a fantasy character as opposed to being a metaphoric examination of post-war or pre-war Japan, or post-war, you know, post-nuclear age. So the movies have never tried to go in a direction that would have brought them Oscar attention, whereas Godzilla -1, I think, actually did. It tried to do things that no other Godzilla movie, even the very first one, were not able to do. So
the actress I was thinking of is Kumi Mizuno.
Oh yeah, she's the best.
Unbelievable. I met a guy at this Godzilla festival at the Frida Cinema who's working on a documentary about her, and also trying to get her to come to America. She's never been here for a convention appearance. But what's weird is she is literally in like every Godzilla movie, sometimes in bit parts, sometimes in bigger parts. And in Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, you can see her right here, this pic right here. They actually darkened her skin, so she looked like more like one of the natives. Anyways, I had a huge crush on Kumi Mizuno when I was a kid. And maybe that never
in Astro Monster, you know, Monster Zero.
That may be one of the best ones of that era in the 60s. Incredible music. But let's go to, I got a lot more stories to go through.
My era is Ray Harryhausen.
Oh, but I love the Ray Harryhausen stuff.
You do?
Yeah, but that was like me seeing that first time in a theater.
Oh, Sinbad movies?
Yep.
Jason and the Argonauts?
Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah, that's great.
You know how magical that was? And just
we were just talking about writing. Why is Barbie an adapted screenplay? Someone explain this to me.
It's an existing IP and it has other stories to its history library. So it's a conversion from one medium to another, which that qualifies as adapted. So Toys and Marbles adapted. Transformers, that was an adapted screenplay, even back in the early 2000s when they did that. It's just
I don't
kind
like
of
that.
it's classified right now.
It's confusing, but I understand. Okay, that's fine.
Couple quick things, little business here. Just let me get through this. Couple things. I want to thank our new members, Liam Kraunos and Mary Rigas. Tomorrow, for members only, we're doing a private conversation with Jim Agnew. He's going to tell you how to write a screenplay. This is for members on the channel, or if you go to Jim's website, jamesjagnew.com, you can register your email, but just become a member of the channel. It's like $2. You get access to our Discord, and we're going to do a private live stream for members only. I'll be there and Jim will be there. And he's like, I'm just going to teach you everything. So thank you to our new members. A couple chats here. Commander Crichton says, who brought the nachos? There were a lot of people eating on the stream yesterday. And Mexican Iron Man says, welcome everyone. Please like and subscribe, share this stream out. By the way, 1,600 people watching live. I think several hundred more on Rumble. I'm really proud of
and this is such a new channel too. Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you. And it's a new show. This is like the 4th episode. Sean Hill says, watching RMB getting shit-faced on FT was one of the best parts of the Oscars. And Bruce Leroy Jenkins for 2 says, no, Alan. Well, there goes the Asian representation. Unless Ramesh, do they count? Technically it's like,
my mom was Irish, she was white and red hair, but my dad, was Indian. So I count. I'm halfway there.
Well,
That's right.
you know what? I've never cared about any of that stuff. Who cares? It's dumb. Whatever. Looking fancy, Paul says unlimited power. And then Paul, you replying to people in the chat says you are awesome. Cheers from Saskatchewan, says M. Carlos Estrada for 2 says RMB's inner child plus alcohol won with Godzilla's FX win.
Nice.
And Red French Moon. Hey, Red French Moon. Love to see you there for €2 as a member. Says Alan is partying with Zegler, Rachel Zegler. She's in Austin. I'm excited to see. We're going to talk to Alan on Wednesday. He'll tell us about a Monkey Man, but he's just been doing movies. He literally plants himself at a draft house and then he goes. And so thank you for that, Red French Moon. And 2 more people became members, MK Fox and Jimmy Jams. And one last thing real quick. I want to let you guys know. This show is sponsored by Criticless. So go to criticless.com. Criticless is a new platform. So Lofty, you're on there?
Yeah, I'm on there.
It's basically a social network, not for movie critics per se, but it's a social network where it's movie opinions. And you win badges, you talk to people. I've got a short video that kind of shows you a
Where
little
is
bit
this?
Criticless.com.
Yeah,
it's
Criticless.
It's an app, but you can also like post links to your videos or reviews. It's pretty cool. So
you guys,
entertainment review platforms don't have to be pretentious or boring. Art is exciting, and the forum where you discuss it should be too. Criticless is a new outlet allowing you to do just that. Review, share, and converse. Congregate with like-minded folks in a more creative, pro-free speech environment. Join the conversation at criticless.com or download in app stores today.
Nice.
Well, there you go.
I like
it on there.
Like that. Isn't that what Letterbox is? I mean, I love Letterbox.
Yeah, it's like Letterbox. It has a different aesthetic. It has different ways of rating. Like you can slide the scale from 100 to 0. You can actually be kind of nuanced about it, like 97%. Letterbox. Yeah, it's similar. If people don't know what it is, that's a good comparison.
Now this is I have a couple more items for Oscar news, like 3 more things. But this, I only noticed this after I rewatched the show. They have added a new award that will go into effect next year. And it just sort of went by us. I mean, some of us were drunk on the stream. There's going to be a award for best casting.
Yep, that's great. I think that's
I don't understand that. What does that mean?
Okay, but like let's go through this real quick.
Oh.
So casting director, look, they should get credit. Yeah. It is a big deal. I've always thought that that's the best ensemble, the best cast, but casting also you have to get approval from studios, producers, higher ups, directors. I mean, the casting, you can put forth whoever you want. And I will say there are movies that are very well cast, but is that a category we want to give an Oscar to? Are we going to even know who these? I mean, it's like, what are your thoughts? I'd like to get everybody.
Mary Jo Slater. That's one of the most famous casting. You know her son, right?
Christian.
Yeah.
But what did she cast? What films? Give us some of the films.
Oh, I think didn't she cast True Lies? And I mean, not True Lies, True Romance.
True Romance.
Right.
I mean, some of the biggest, 90s, 80s films.
Yeah.
It's a
Hollywood goes through that process where suddenly one casting director has to be on everything.
Right.
Right. That happens a lot.
It's a huge
weird.
job. It's a very, behind the scenes, you rely so much on a casting director to kind of filter through and get the right people in front of you, and not the right people, meaning it's this elite thing, just who you're looking for. I mean, they go above and beyond. It's a very, I'm not saying it's a thankless job, but they have not gotten the recognition that I think they deserve. And not only casting, I think stunt people too. I mean, if you can do casting,
I'm partially in agreement with that, but in the last 6 years, casting has actually outsourced much of their workflow to the talent itself.
To India, it's all gone to India,
and it's and it's treated more. I mean, all of my actor friends, and especially ones that are quite notably named, are like, I am buying equipment and recording stuff, and I live in LA, and I'm sending it to a casting director that I know is like 12 blocks from me. And they don't rent an office. They don't do any of the old reading the rooms or anything of that nature. No camera tests, nothing of that part. It's like it's basically treated like a Snapchat or a TikTok or something where they're just scrolling through those self tapes and then picking the ones that they want, as opposed to actually getting a proper dialogue between the talent and the creative force behind it.
They
now,
do
10 years
they
ago,
do
I
on
would
the
have been
second
for this,
level,
but not so
not
much
on the
now
first level.
on the initial.
The initial they don't. So the initial is like a cattle call, right? But they're doing self-taping, or you can go to a studio and tape. But then after that, when they filter that, they do have them bring them in a lot of the times, and they will have them have a conversation, and the director will direct them. It depends on the project.
I think it has the potential to be abused, because a lot of the times you don't get who you want and you have to settle for somebody else. Like, for example, Tarantino does all his own casting, but it's like, well, he accidentally didn't get Michael Madsen and he got Travolta instead for Vincent. And it's like, oh, well, I you know what I mean? Like, I think,
do you know who they wanted before that? They wanted Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp
wanted Johnny Depp.
Like,
and he didn't want that.
Like, and sometimes you're gonna run into like Christopher Nolan. It's like, I wrote the script for Cillian Murphy, so does he get credit for that casting? Like, I guess.
Right. Well, there's also accident. I mean, movies are filled with wonderful and bad accidents. Not Friedkin. Who's it? Who directed?
Well, how about The Year of Living Dangerously? Remember who won the best? It plays a male dwarf.
Linda Hunt.
Linda Hunt. I mean,
the shutout Mapes.
Shutout Mapes, the housekeeper.
Yeah, brilliant casting.
The French Connection. The director who did French Connection.
That's Friedkin.
That's Friedkin. And he was saying, well, he specifically asked for an actor to do the European bad guy. The casting director misunderstood, hired this French guy, and it was right. He arrived at the set, and Friedkin went, "Oh my God. I wanted like this tough kind of talking, tough guy." And he went, "I got this suave European." And he said, "But it actually turned out better, because it was a complete contrast to Popeye."
Yeah.
And then
it's not a exact.
Do you get an award? Should you get an award for those wonderful accidental?
You have accidental on the set.
Yeah.
I think it's deserved personally, but you can.
You know what I think we need? We need a comedy category before we do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I
well,
agree.
there is technically.
I agree.
I don't know if you knew this, in the Oscar rules, there is a best musical category. It only goes into effect when there are at least 5 eligible nominees. And my friend Dan Mervish, who did a real estate musical, this little small indie musical, that year lobbied you can look this up. Dan Mervish. You might know who he is. He's one of the founders of Slam Dance. He's made a bunch of films. His new movie, 18 and a Half, very good film about the Nixon tapes. A really good indie comedy. And Dan made a musical, this real estate musical, and then he went and made another musical in Germany, just so there would be technically enough musicals that could win. And then he lobbied the Academy, and they completely ignored him. That is in the Oscar rules, best musical, but you have to have enough. Like, that's how best animation came about, right? Oh, there's enough movies, animated movies. They lobby for a category. I'm personally of the mind that, like, you can do the crafts categories like a governor's ball kind of thing. I actually watched John Mulaney hosted the governor's ball, and he was hilarious. He was the best of the night. That joke about sound was so funny, and he just repeated these lines. The one line from Madam Web was hysterical. So John Mulaney. So I think maybe they've been trying to do this for years, because look, the Oscars, it's a show on a major network. Do the technical awards belong during the show, or should it just be, because the Golden Globes, what do? They do genre, right? Comedy, drama, whatnot. And which also gets really weird, because some stupid movies get thrown into the comedy category that make no sense.
Yeah.
Foreign, foreign press can be a little weird, but
I don't know. There's too many Best Picture nominees. First of all, 10 is way too many.
That's a lot.
They combine the sound editing and sound into one sound category, right?
They did.
So
they did.
That shows they're trying to contract the technical awards, because look, between us, the layman, you're watching the show. I mean, I think it's great. I know who Thelma Schoonmaker is. I know like certain people in the crafts, but do the people in those need to accept an award on a national stage? Because ultimately what you get is you get like maybe 10 or 12 movies get nominated. amongst all these different awards. What do you guys think about that aspect of the technical awards? Because I actually watched the technical awards. It's on YouTube. The Governor's Ball is on YouTube. If you subscribe to the Oscars YouTube channel, which just gave us a strike last night, I was not really happy about that. My fault, by the way. I played some stuff I shouldn't have. But what are your thoughts on that aspect?
Winning an Oscar is a very important thing for your career and your resume. Like, I can understand if maybe these people are like advocating for more specific. I as a viewer, I don't really care, but I'm
within Hollywood, it's important.
It's important. Yes. Like, look at Parasite. Like, look at Parasite's victory was huge for South Korea, and it was huge for Bong Joon-ho, and it was just big for his career. I can see how like a sound mixing, editing, like more of these like niche awards might be beneficial to have it on your resume. I get it. I'm just saying, for as a viewer, it's sort of, I don't care as much. But I don't know.
Chris, you just came up with the premise for a indie movie.
What's that?
Okay. If you've got enough musicals to open up the category, a bunch of people get together and they make 5 movies, all very different, like a Bagra movie. I mean, they just go for these musicals.
Barbie.
Pardon me, what?
Barbie was like a Sound of Music.
Yeah. But and they make the 5 really shitty movies, and the Oscars have to include them, and one of them's going to win. And these people with no money, no real good clothing, end up hobnobbing with the elite. and obviously they're all shitty, but one of them wins. The winner is Eating Your Underwear, the musical.
That sounds like
sort of like a Bad News Bad News Bears for Hollywood.
Yes. Yeah.
That sounds like a Christopher Guest movie. Like you should like a Best in Show, Spinal Tap, Waiting for Guffman. That sounds like something like that. I would watch that.
Anyway, so I'm pitching you this idea.
Well, idea. I did a movie called My Big Fat Independent Movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Bob Odenkirk. You can get. I'm actually working on a Blu-ray 20-year anniversary edition with tons of extras on it that'll be out before the end of the year.
How did you get Bob Odenkirk, Chris?
I met Bob Odenkirk at the Slamdance Film Festival. He had a movie there that was this little small indie movie called Melvin Goes to Dinner. Jack Black is in it, and I really love this little movie. He directed it, and it's like this little small, and I helped Bob Odenkirk get this movie in a ton of other festivals because I just kept recommending it. Because at the time I'd written like four editions of a book called The Ultimate Film Festival Survival Guide. So I knew a lot of festival directors, and I would recommend movies like, you should put this movie in your festival. He was really grateful, and I asked him, I said, well, would you be in my indie movie? And he was in it for 30 minutes. Well, the thing is this, he shot for 30 minutes, but he's in the whole movie. So the idea is these two hitmen are going to Vegas to pull a botched robbery. But they have this other hitman who pays rent and lives in the trunk, and he's bleeding profusely, like Tim Roth's character in Reservoir Dogs. So every time they open the trunk, Bob Odenkirk's there, or we had him record while lines so they talk to him. So as they're driving to Vegas, like Bob Odenkirk's in the whole movie, he shot for 30 minutes.
I want to see this. Where do I see this movie?
I mean, it's dumb. Look, the movie's a C+ at best. It was my first sort of big film.
Yeah, that's great.
But it's you can find it used on Amazon. Kind of
was
funny.
His wife his manager at that time still?
Yes, his wife was the manager.
Okay.
He did it for scale. We were a SAG indie production. We paid all the actors. And 18-day shoot, what those are like, miserable. But I mean, it was nuts, but it was a fun experience. And then like Clint Howard's in it.
Wow.
And a bunch of other people.
Oh, that's great.
Clint Howard has a day rate. I think it was like, if I recall correctly, it was like $4,000, and he comes up for one day and he's in your movie.
That's Clint's rate. Okay, good to know. It hasn't changed, I bet.
Clint's rate in 2005, maybe.
Right.
I bet it's gone up. But we got
Star Trek, right?
Paget Brewster's the star. I loved Paget. I knew Paget from the you probably know Paget, Rob, from going to San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh yeah, well she was in the specials.
Yes,
The movie that we produced.
Love Paget Brewster, and I was like,
Right.
I mean, I'm proud that like some of the really raunchy comedy lines made it in, and I personally wrote them. I don't even want to say what they are out loud. Some people would blush. So there you go. But I've got a bunch of other stuff. We just got a few super chats. Let me go through these real quick. Fun to see RMB celebrating his birthday last night. Happy birthday, Rob, from Channel Surf for 2.
Wow.
Deez Webo says Chris versus Tom, Poor Things debate, and RMB versus Doomcock, Picard season 3 debate live on pay-per-view. It's gonna happen at never o'clock.
Yeah,
And
right.
Dark Hierophant for 2 says,
I was there. I don't want to replay it.
I don't want to revisit it. It's like, you know what? You can agree to disagree. It's fine. Dark Hierophant for 2 says, can we get a category for best background? Maybe a best background actor?
If you notice them, they're doing the wrong thing.
Okay, so I have my friend, you might know Scott Spiegel. Scott Spiegel was in the group with Sam Raimi and stuff.
Yeah.
Scott Spiegel has been like a background actor in every Sam Raimi movie. And every time I can tell it's him because he'll always do something a little different. Like if you've seen, oh my God, like he's at the end of the Evil Dead 3 and he's one of the knights and he's holding his sword a little differently.
Army of the Dead. Right.
Yeah, Army of the Dead. Oh my God. And so Scott's hilarious.
Love that movie.
Good guy. And then Red Frenchman says new Oscars category casting. The nominee is Couch. Thank you, Red French Moon. Not sure about that one, but let me there's another story I'd like to share real quick. It's 5 things you didn't see on TV, because I'm not sure if you're aware. Let me bring this up.
The Oscars doesn't ever include all of the good stuff of the year. There's always stuff that's left out. There's always
the best stuff. The best stuff is always stuff that is a mistake.
Sure.
You know, like Jennifer Lawrence tripping up the stairs in her dress, right? Or things that go wrong. Like, to me, that's why it's like, look, you can sit there and you can create banter between 2 people, but when they ignore it or make a mistake or something goes wrong, mistakes in live is just always exciting. So
Lawrence looked luminous yesterday.
She looked good. She looked good. I've been seeing some.
You know who else looked good yesterday? Sydney Sweeney.
Oh my God, dude. You could not. Yeah. So, and I've never seen this happen. The show started late. Do you remember when we were sitting around, like, they're showing a lot of commercials. It's like 8:05. Like, let's go.
Okay. Yeah.
What?
I thought you were talking about 5 movies that didn't make the nominees that should have been there or something. But I misunderstood your thing.
5 things you didn't see on TV: A Late Start, Simu Lose, I'm Just Ken, Prep, and More by Katsi Stefan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to go through these. I'm Just Ken. These are the 5 things. I'm Just Ken preparation and a rapturous audience reception. Simu Liu got on the mic ahead of Ryan Gosling's performance of I'm Just Ken, asking the audience to hold up their phone flashlights and sing along to the epic masculine power ballad. Cord Jefferson and Sterling K. Brown's sweet trophy moment at the Governor's Ball after party. Sterling K. Brown watched from the sidelines as Cord Jefferson got his Oscar speech for Best Adapted Screenplay engraved. I just want to see. I'm not sure if you are aware of this. After the ceremony, the winners can get their Oscars engraved because no one knows who's going to win at the show, right? Yeah. And so I saw a picture of Christopher Nolan and his wife getting their Oscars engraved. So there you go.
Well, they basically have to hand them back.
They're props on the show.
Yeah, they're props on the show.
Props. Yes. Then you go and it's you get them engraved. Billie Eilish ditches her shoes. The What Was I Made For singer who became the youngest 2-time winner ever with her trophy for Best Original Song held her black heels behind her back as she got her Oscar engraved at the Governor's Ball. Okay.
Did she win for James Bond?
No, yes. But and she won obviously last night for Barbie. So
I mean, like, it was a great performance by Billie Eilish. I thought it was great.
She was Chris, I sent you something that didn't make the camera. It's Martin Scorsese, his daughter filming him reacting to Ken. It's pretty funny. It's in the private chat.
Yeah, and then here we go. Emma Stone's husband Dave McCary stands by as she gets her Oscar. engraved. I guess a lot of things involved engraving. But the best moments, my whole point is the best moments we don't get to see, and it's the unscripted, authentic moments. And that's why people, I think, have an aversion of the Oscars these days, is because it's so scripted, it's so controlled, it's so vetted, it's so planned, it's so rehearsed, it's so fake. Like the news, like so many things we see now is just like we're given this veneer of the thing they want us to see, and the things that are interesting are the things we don't get to see. The authenticity, as you pointed out.
I think Gore Jefferson wasn't planned, right? I thought that was Core. Sorry, I didn't want to step on.
No, go ahead, please.
I thought Gore Jefferson was not planned. I thought that was authentic. When everyone else is about me, thanking everybody, he was like, no. I'm going to make this about everyone else who hasn't made it. My friends, other people I know, all the people out there who want to have a chance at this. This is what I'm going to talk about at this moment. Not about me, but about them. And I thought that was great. And even I can't say, Divine, even her, the same thing. It was about, the experience of thinking I didn't think I would ever be here, but, I realized I just had to be myself, and you could be yourself too. I think those moments are moments that we look for, as opposed to I'd like to thank my publicist and all this,
But I was also going to say it's important also to me who hosted, man, because the host sets the tone. This was this was a boring Oscars. It was boring. I'm sorry. I was bored out of my mind, and I was high as I was not in my right mind yesterday.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great Oscars. I see. It's your
But again, I'll tell you why. It's because of the host, man. You get somebody like Dave Chappelle or like Ricky Gervais to host, and I think that sets the tone of the Oscars, and it makes it a little bit more exciting. Jimmy Kimmel he's like watching glue dry, man. I just couldn't do it. Well, I'd rather see Joe Coy host the Oscars next year than Jimmy Kimmel.
So I don't know whether it's the same now as in the past, and I'm going to go into my Paul Chatto oldster time machine, but there was always a connection with the way Johnny Carson handled the Tonight Show and the Oscars also, in that Hollywood was an old boys network and they liked to party. The Oscars was just an extension of, people, Bing Crosby or whatever coming on stage, smoking. Hey, everyone, this is a party. This is us. It was for them. You just got the sense that they were enjoying themselves to like-minded stars, mega stars. They cared, but they didn't care. They were not trying too hard because they didn't need to try too hard. So it was a casual evening, and you could only get a host that also did movies. That's why they respected Bob Hope.
Interesting.
And that's why Letterman creeped everybody out, especially at that transition time, because they didn't trust a TV person.
That's good.
The person had to be in movies to be allowed to be a host, to be part of the clique. And that was a fun time. So that was something I was very, very aware of.
Well, to ping off that, I did like how they now have, which they didn't do before, they have the people who won before presenting the
How
award
did you
to
like
the
that
next person. Yeah, I like that.
I liked it was okay. Yeah.
I'll just say this: the one that there wasn't an embarrassing moment. There wasn't a slap. There wasn't a. This was. I mean, the only thing that bugged me was like, oh my god, can we get through one Jimmy Kimmel doing anything and not like,
he was awful.
The Trump. I thought he was just weak. John Mulaney would have been the better host. I saw him host the governor's
Cena would
ball.
have been the better host.
You're right. John Cena.
I want Zach Galifianakis to host. He's funny.
Well, they didn't do any political stuff, but I guess, and I was like, why did he go there? And I think he was also stretching it a little bit, but I also heard that I guess Trump was tweeting him about him
on
being
Truth
Kimmel.
Social.
So, which again, it's low hanging fruit. I think it's better to be inclusive in these events because half the audience are Trump fans, half the audience are Biden fans.
No, half the audience are not Trump fans.
The audience in the country,
half the audience that they want to watch their show are
exactly
Trump fans.
Potentially.
I will say though, you did feel there was an excitement that's been lacking over the last couple of years in the Oscars. I mean, I think that we had a great crop of films in 2023. I mean,
yeah, it's fantastic.
There's a really say what you want about the Oscars and Hollywood and the elites or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that we got a lot of great movies last year, a lot of great talent, and I think a lot of people saw a lot of these movies, so there was a lot more excitement around them, starting with Barbenheimer, but then all the other things, so you could kind of feel that. I thought the show was, I had to go back and look at it again myself, but I thought it was an incredibly, overall, a really well, slickly produced show that was pretty entertaining compared to some Oscar telecasts.
Well, I will say nothing went wrong yesterday, so it was polished. I'm not saying it wasn't polished.
You're glass half empty there.
No, it's not. No. There were things I liked about it. Right, I loved Billie Eilish performing.
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling was great.
He was great. Ryan was fantastic.
So good.
The audience had way more fun.
Some of the speeches were amazing, right? Like the speeches. It just wasn't. I don't know. Like for some reason, I enjoyed the Golden Globes more this year. I enjoyed the critics. I enjoyed the other award shows a lot more. I don't know.
What did you think of the Best International and the speech that came after that for the Best International?
I guess he had, I don't know, because the movie is so kind of evocative of that kind of stuff. He had to kind of give a little political, but he didn't pick a side. You know what I mean? He played the, he talked about October 7th, and then he talked about, I thought it was fine. It wasn't super hyper one-sided, ceasefire now, like whatever, they could have been worse.
I didn't think no one should have brought it up, but as a speech, I wasn't offended by it.
Yeah.
I've got some interesting data here. I'll just go ahead, Ramesh.
Well, I was going to say Lofty. It was funny because you said Eggers is the new Kubrick, and I would disagree. I would say that Jonathan Glazer from the beginning of his career is the Kubrick, not Fincher, not Nolan, not Yorgos. His films, Kubrick was always about the characters that thematically is falling to the suffering to the mouth of madness, right?
Well, yeah,
and so his characters do the same, and it's very similar.
Well, there's one difference between Glazer and Kubrick. Kubrick never won an Oscar,
right? I was going to say, how many have not won Oscars?
Well,
how many John Carpenter's never won an Oscar.
Hitchcock never won a real Oscar.
Right.
Wow,
Wong Kar-wai has never won an Oscar.
Right.
This is interesting. I'll find the 2024 ratings, but look at this chart. This is charting the Oscars from the beginning all the way back to 1960.
Oh.
1960, almost 55. What is it? Over 55 million people watched the Oscars in 1960. Here's the ratings for each year, and then it tells what won Best Picture. I'm going through. 1960 was Ben-Hur. Then it dropped to like just over 40 million, which is still pretty impressive. West Side Story, Lawrence of Arabia, Tom Jones. Wow, these are really epic movies. My Fair Lady, Man for All Seasons. I think a lot of it has to do with the movies themselves. To that was the 60s, the Oscars, but it was still like 40 million, pretty much sticking to 40 million until we get to 2012, 2015, it starts dropping sharply to like what? Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's what, 10 million people. So from nearly 60 million to 10 million, it used to be a thing that was like, I remember when I was a kid watching the Oscars, it was the Super Bowl. It was the Super Bowl. Everyone watched it.
Well, there's so much content now. People are choosing to like consume Netflix or play video games now instead of watch that. Like there's just it's too much oversaturation of content.
It's same with Sopranos. You don't have another Sopranos event, right? You have so many other shows that not everyone.
Also, Chris, kids today don't care about movies the way we cared about movies when we were kids.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, we were watching. I was watching the Oscars at 5, 6, 7 because I was a movie fanatic.
Yeah,
even at that age. And nowadays, there is no youth movie culture, and what little of it is, we talk to them on YouTube.
There is. Saltburn had a pretty massive youth following. If you paid attention on like Twitter and Letterboxd, like Saltburn is super hype for a lot of young people.
Right, but not because because of the movie. It was more of a memeable. It was what happened in it, and it turned out to be more the subject matter than the movie itself. I bet if you ask people who are on Twitter talking about Saltburn, that they couldn't tell you who directed it.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, across
But
the
R&B,
spectrum,
is that still valid? I mean, any way we can to get people to watch movies, is that?
Yeah.
No, I think that movies have just been movies were the art form of the 20th century. Games are the art form of the 21st century, and we're never going to get that back because
Dune is and Oppenheimer. We need more of these things. We need to go.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, when we were kids, we were cult movie fanatics. We went to Rocky Horror. When was the last time you heard somebody go to a midnight show of Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Right.
I mean, and it's okay that it's that way, but we have social media, we've got TikTok, we've got Instagram, you've got YouTube. There's so many things. The difference is this. I think the difference is culturally, youth used to look outward. And maybe they still do at someone like Taylor Swift, but now entertainment for young people, they're the center of it.
Yes, I agree. There's a little narcissism going on.
And it's totally different. It's totally inverted. That's why people don't give a shit about movies anymore.
But also a big part of that, Rob, is the fact that, you know, we have streaming now. You know, people would rather just, you know, stay home and watch. You know what? I will say this. I think, at least for a while, there was better TV out there than there were movies.
Yeah, because film and television was the first...
better TV than movies.
Yes, because film and television was the original social media. That's what you watched, and then that's what you would talk about. They took the talking about part, and they made that the more important aspect with your Facebook, your MySpace, your TikTok, your Twitter, all those things. It's talking to each other now about each other as opposed to about the things that would bring people together. And when you're not competing on that level, and you're just oversaturating the market, which is what Hollywood has been doing for the last few years, especially with the television shows. You went from 100 shows a year to 500 in 6 years. You're really just kind of you're overloading your audience with thinking that just trying to buy for those few seconds of attention, and they're just getting distracted by easier things.
Hate watching is another big thing.
Yeah.
People like I try to get people to talk about The Killer. It's like that was impossible because they don't want to support Netflix, or they don't like it because it's boring. Nobody wanted to talk about Beau's Afraid, Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives. I watched these are all. Anatomy of a Fall is a masterpiece, but it's like they don't care. They'd rather listen to somebody talk about Madam Web like 7 times, you know. It's really kind of I think it's embarrassing, and I try not to.
Low hanging fruit. Yeah,
it's low hanging fruit. I try to push back as much as possible, but you can only do so much.
So I've been doing a ton of searches. The ratings are not out yet. I'm getting ratings from other countries. They're all down. I've got historical ratings. I don't have it. I wonder if they're so bad.
I think they're bad, man.
They must be so bad that they are coming up with a way to spin it. I've been doing searches, and I found an article that says, when are the U.S. ratings for the Oscars 2024 going to come out?
We don't know.
Actual.
Because I think it's less like you're saying a social gathering. It's more of a promo now for the movie, so that when you release the physical media or you have it in streaming, you can say, "Oh, that's the film that won. I need to now go watch that."
I still think that a movie that is released in theaters has more cachet when it then goes to streaming.
100%.
Yeah, look at Tom Cruise. Never did a streaming movie ever,
and so
it's proven. The ratings, all streaming ratings, prove that.
So to me, there's value. Part of the problem is, we need to get the volume up into the theaters. The studios, when we had 5 of them, would do at least 24, 26 studio movies a year. Then you had all these independents of various sizes filling in the gaps at the movie theaters. We had a lot of movies to go to. Then we got the superhero thing where, you know, all 12 screens was Thor.
Or live action Disney movies.
Or fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, really? You know what?
Well, also, the genres.
Tiresome.
The studios would make dramas. They would make comedies. They would make horror films. They would make legal thrillers. They would make literary adaptations. And now,
comedy being my prejudice, we have way too few comedies.
It's a dead genre. The last comedy I saw was The Disaster Artist in theaters. I'm not even joking.
I mean, Sydney Sweeney.
Jennifer Lawrence. What did you think of the Jennifer Lawrence movie?
I thought I watched it. I thought it's the one where she's like kind of dating that kid.
Yeah.
Where she's naked.
I thought it's dumb. And I thought it was dumb. I don't know.
It was a great
But
performance.
the Sydney
by her,
Sweeney,
though.
Glenn Powell
She's fine.
movie has made over $200 million worldwide.
And
So
That's
maybe
a
we'll-
stupid movie, though. That is so stupid. Did you
Well,
guys see
it's
that
more
movie?
it's more of a drama than it is a comedy because it's not very funny, but it does have the
It's not
romantic element
funny.
to it, which
Right,
people
right.
needed because we haven't gotten many just romance movies.
But
yeah,
my
we
point
don't get
was is
movies
that
like Animal House or Blues Brothers or
No.
No, we're not getting that.
even
The Fer-
Into the Night. I'm thinking John Landis films.
I mean, Peter Farrelly's new movie went direct to streaming, the one with John Cena and
But see,
Oh, Ricky
a
Sticky.
lot,
Yeah,
a lot of
I saw
comedies, a lot of comedies now are going straight to streaming.
Yeah.
That's where the comedies are going. They're not going into the theaters.
but that's
Everybody's
not
going
good.
straight to streaming. Del Toro can't get a movie produced in a theater. He has to go to Netflix. He has no choice.
Well, here's
It's
something. Here's
amazing.
something actually that Lofty sent me over Twitter, which
It
is
cool.
Martin Scorsese watching the.
It's
wait,
adorable.
I just
He's-
had it. I
he's
just
in
had
the-
it. Where
It's in the
is it?
chat.
Martin Scorsese watching the Ken song. I don't think I can play the music.
No, don't play the music.
No,
you're
no,
toast.
Yeah, I don't want to get us in
don't
trouble.
play the
Barbie.
music, but
Here we go.
His granddaughter's recording him. She does TikToks with him all the time. He's always doing funny things on TikTok.
Oh yeah, he's
That
turned
Ken song was
into an
fantastic.
Apple doll.
that
He
performance was great.
He likes the youth like the generation of the TikToks. Like he actually likes trying to appeal to them. I think he's trying to get young people to go see his movies at least, even though he's on TikTok all the time.
Oh
He
my
enjoys
God.
it.
I will
That's his
say,
authentic self. That's who he is.
even though
Yeah.
I'm Just Ken didn't win an Oscar, they won the world. I mean, that's just the thing. Like
Yeah.
Billie Eilish, she phoned in that singing performance there. Like
Yeah.
you, like she
She
just
did.
did not care.
But
And
she
I'm like,
was still good. Even
Yeah.
phoning it
great.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
but the audience didn't respond to her the way that they respond to Ken. Doesn't matter that Simu Liu came out, and I'm glad that his severed Achilles healed so quickly. That wasn't a fake story. I'm glad that he was able to come out there and rile everyone up. But I mean,
yeah,
the entire audience, that whole theater exploded.
Yeah,
was
and I
amazing.
always focus on the weird things. I was waiting for them to knock over those champagne glasses. They set them down, they put them up. And it was like, wow, they did a great job.
The Boy and the Heron was also a highlight for me, winning best animated movie. That's my second favorite movie of the year. My top three is Oppenheimer, Boy and the Heron, and Anatomy of a Fall. And the Sandra Huller, by the way, I feel bad for her, but everyone's like Lily was snubbed, or but actually she was snubbed. To be honest, is that she is amazing in Anatomy of a Fall. She's incredible.
You know what? A lot of
Yeah.
people thought Spider-Verse should have beat Boy and the Heron.
I know
Yeah.
it's a big deal on social media. People,
I
debating.
love Miyazaki, but I just felt like The Boy and the Heron was like sort of, it's not as good as some of his previous work. And I love Spider-Verse, so I thought
like
the
both.
animation was great. So
Yeah, I thought for sure it was going to win, but I called Boy because I had a feeling that they were going to give it to him.
his retirement film, right?
I love.
Here's
Boy and the Heron.
probably one of the best moments of the night was Godzilla winning an Oscar. And here it is, a video that was posted from the Godzilla, which is Godzilla winning an Oscar shaped like Godzilla. So there you are. And that is the model of the Godzilla from Godzilla -1. Love it. Oh my God.
Crazy.
That's probably my favorite movie of last year.
Japan.
It
had a
was
good night.
definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
The year before that, obviously RRR. But
Did you guys like Past Lives? I love Past Lives.
I really loved Past Lives.
It's beautiful. I saw it twice. Yeah.
Never heard of
It
it.
was
I
great.
haven't seen it yet.
You know, I loved Wim Wenders' Perfect Day. I thought
Perfect
that was
Days. Yeah.
It was like
Oh,
a Jim
I-
Jarmusch film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Past Lives was
Past
really
Lives.
not what you think it is. You think it's going to be this. I mean, it's about
very
loss.
Lost
it's
in
about-
translation. It's very lost
Yes.
in translation. Wong Kar-wai, Chungking Express. It's very much like a platonic romantic tragedy, but it's also beautiful.
I
That
love
was
that
shot on
actress.
film too.
Yeah.
I
shot on
want to
film.
see like another Being John Malkovich. I mean, I'm missing those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
The Quirkies,
stuff
the
that's
Charlie
just
Kaufmans
weird.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of shot on film, I love that Hoytema van Hoyt that
He's
came out and said
fantastic.
we should shoot on film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah, there's something to that has been lost, and this happened with
Well,
what's
yeah,
his
it's
name?
expensive. That's why people.
Well,
don't
the
do
guy
it.
who
more
made
commercial
Why Am I
shot on
Spacing It,
film
Judd
now.
Apatow. Judd Apatow, his sort of style of doing comedies, which I love that John Waters came out and said comedy should be 90 minutes. That's it.
Yeah.
90 minutes for a comedy. Now, Judd Apatow, his comedies are like 2 hours and 15. 2 hours.
Oh.
What are you doing? I just,
Or-
and it's that whole thing of like, do another take, but say a different funny thing. And then his movies are just.
I prefer the Edgar
what
Wright
like,
version of comedy, visual comedy, over the Judd Apatow, which I feel can be.
I love
Or
the
the
idea
Adam
that,
McKay. Adam McKay is so pretentious sometimes,
but I love the idea that was something precious when you shoot film. I mean, do they even use the terms shooting ratio anymore? You know, like when Christopher Nolan made Following, he shot black and white 16 millimeter, and he only could afford a certain amount of film on a weekend, and would just shoot. When film ran out, he was done shooting, and he shot three. Usually, when you're at that case, it's a 3-to-1 shooting ratio.
I wonder
if you get a oneer, you get lucky with a oneer.
When I was shooting film, I'd go to the place that developed it, and then all us film rats would get what are called ends.
Yeah, the short ends.
Short ends.
Yeah,
short ends.
And
sometimes recans too. Yeah.
And the thing is, we'd be mashing together neg, positive, anything.
You were Oliver Stone in right in Natural Born Killers there.
And that was fun, but you know what? I could shoot a really good movie with my G9 II. You know, it can be done. I mean, I think they're overdoing
IMAX,
it.
Yeah. IMAX is I think the future. I think for theaters, it has to be.
I think so too. I haven't seen Dune in Part 2 in 70 millimeter yet. I know you have, Rob. I'm dying to see it in 70 millimeter. There are no good seats through the end of this month for Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
You gotta be road F or G or above. You cannot anything below F.
No,
you're like this. It's nuts. So
yeah.
Was that saying the death of cinema is over exaggerated, as Mark Twain would say?
I think if we get more good movies in, it's people are going to come out and watch them because you know I don't think it's
they will come.
And it does have the cachet, as we talked about, that stamp of approval before it goes to streaming.
Well, considering what's been going on for the past couple of years, I think studios are hurting right now financially. I can't see them taking risk on any big movies or any movies that are unproven properties. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year.
Godzilla -1, 15 million. Core Jefferson make $10 million films instead of.
I mean, and the thing is, it's the same amount of time.
I agree.
You have 2 hours of time. You know, I heard that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, they spent 30 million less on it than they spent on War of the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, and I mean that's the way to go. Why is it that these and Godzilla? If you look at that Toho behind the scenes effects reel that you can see on YouTube, these people really knew what they were doing. Right. You know, now we have these effects driven films where because everything is on green screen, it makes everything an effect shot, which means you have to employ thousands of people.
Right.
And if we get back to, and I think a lot of a big problem is a lot of these directors just don't know how to make movies.
Right.
Because they you look at Denis Villeneuve has been making movies since the 90s. You know, he goes way back. You go back and even his films, his French Canadian movies Polytechnic and Incendies is an incredible film.
Yes.
But you go back and Christopher Nolan, same way, like you said, Chris, he made Following, you know, then he made Memento, but he didn't, when he did a studio movie, he went and did Insomnia. Which is a remake with 2 stars. He proves he can work within the studio system. And then he was smart. He really did the one for us, one for them mentality. So he does Batman, and then he does The Prestige, and then he does Dark Knight Returns, and then he does Inception.
And I love the movies like Jon Favreau's Elf, right? Forced perspective, using old techniques in a new way, you know, or in an old way, but to tell a story. And they even had stop motion in that film. And that's a relatively
Barbie.
film.
Yeah, Barbie.
But I also think that all this technological leaps forward in terms of digital effects has made filmmakers lazy.
Yeah.
If you even go back to the Lord of the Rings films, they used all these other techniques. The color correction on that film it's mind-boggling how much that movie was saved in the color correction.
It's a selling point, right? We've seen it. So
AI is going to make it even lazier. We're
I agree
we're fucked.
Well, they're going in the wrong direction for AI, and I happen to know personally that AI companies are actually skewing away from creative purposes for AI because they're basically getting what's akin to a Star Trek reference of replicative fading. If the AI is learning off of other AI, it's not going to grow. So they're trying to get away from that part. Now, here's the other part. And this is something that was actually barraged to George Lucas in the early 80s when he started experimenting with special effects by other filmmakers, saying that if you make the special effects too accessible or you rely on them too much, you're going to lose the essence of storytelling. And that came true towards the end of the century. Now we're living in it right now. We have the volume, which I think is a miraculous technology, but it is being abused for things that doesn't need to be shot on the volume.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And it
looks it.
And it's hurting the other.
I mean,
like
other
the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian.
Look at the original Star Wars, man. That was a movie about robots and aliens and all kind of weird shit.
Puppets.
But there was heart. There was a heart to that story, and we all bonded over the heart of that story.
It was about character. You know, having shot on the volume.
We have better technology now.
You don't care about
and
the
we're putting out
character
shite.
Yeah.
Right. Having shot on the volume, I can always tell where the seam is. I know where they're hiding the seam, you know, and where it means. But to your point, you know, one time when I first moved here, I was a PA in a movie, and Dan Brown, who produced Jaws, was working on this movie. I believe it was Kiss the Girls. And we were talking about Jaws, and he was that, you know, it wasn't, for us, it was never about the shark. It was about those three guys on that ship. And when they talk about, what is it, the USS Philadelphia?
Yeah.
And it's just they as characters.
The Indianapolis,
thank you. And when you know, Star Wars, it's those characters. And it was always, the effects were secondary, right?
Exactly, because they're so expensive. Now that the effects are technically so much easier to do, but still expensive, they're now relying on the effects to sell the movie when it's really the characters that sell the movie. Like if you're writing a movie and you're like, oh, we have a budget of only $3 million, so we can only afford 2 effect shots. You make sure that everything else around that is as good as, or if not better than, whatever that effect shot could be, because that's what's going to hold the audience's attention until you get to the effect shot. Now you have the inverse. And
that's the death of the movie star. Right? That's the death of the movie star. That plus Marvel, like, who cares who's playing Captain America?
And to a certain degree, necessity is the mother of invention. And you know, we're all oldsters, and we grew up in that time. And, you know, Robert and I have already talked about this because we're both Star Trek nerds. But, you know, I love the stories where the production manager says, we can only afford 2 phaser blasts. Can't do 3.
Yep.
Right.
Can only afford 2. What the heck? And then they come up, and that resulted in Spock, you know, going up and grabbing the person by the collar and knocking them out.
That's great.
So,
famously, James Cameron only had 6 alien suits when he made Aliens.
That's right.
Yeah.
And like the laser that comes into the Narcissus at the beginning of the movie and scans, and they find Ripley. Gale Ann Hurd said, "You can't have that; it's too expensive." So he paid for it out of his own pocket.
Wow.
And is it the first Alien or that one where they had only so much hallway that they just had to repurpose for the ship or for?
Oh, I'm sure it's probably the first one.
And Star Trek couldn't afford a landing vessel.
That's why they did
they came up with the transporter. I mean, I love finding solutions. The Prisoner, the day of shoot, they had to come up with this mechanical device that was scary as hell that would track down Patrick McGowan and bring him back.
Jurassic.
What's the Michael J. Fox movie with where they hunt ghosts? What's that one? Peter Jackson film.
The Frighteners.
Frighteners. So when that device they used, that's a spot meter. They didn't have a device to find ghosts, so it's just a regular DP spot meter with the with a little cap on it.
But those are great times, you know, when you have found solutions to things inexpensively.
And it's just, I miss that well of creative ideas that spring from obviously trying to solve either a story problem or a budget problem.
Right.
And when you've got like, we can do anything in digital, stand in front of this screen.
That's
and
the problem.
That's the problem. And it's made filmmakers lazy. Whereas conversely, you need to watch this thing that's on the Toho channel, official Godzilla Toho channel. It's a 6-minute making of
it's amazing
visual effects. And it goes through the math, how they did things. And they did have physical sets. They could only afford to create part of, the scene where the woman's in the train, right? They could only afford literally the sliver where she's sitting, and that's it. Everything else is digitally created. It's so innovative and beautiful. And this is what, going back to following and Chris Nolan, which kind of kicked this off, is when you've only got 3 takes, you go for it.
Yeah, and Toho Studios is the website. Toho Studios.
Godzilla Toho official YouTube I'll find it. I'll find it. I'll put it in the private chat.
What's great about that movie too, Chris, is that Godzilla, I felt like it was the first Godzilla movie that had the right scale between big and small and perspective. And I think that's what's lost in a lot of movies.
And
scale and perspective.
And was shot correctly. You will barely ever see Godzilla in one shot. We're looking at Godzilla from human scale or human scale from a building because that's how we would see Godzilla. So it was shot correctly. So
talking about Jaws, and the story being about the three fishermen, same thing with Godzilla -1. It wasn't so much about Godzilla as it was those characters,
We cared about those guys.
It's a post-war it's a post-war drama, right? It's a foreign film. It felt like Dodescadon by Akira Kurosawa, but with the monster.
Now, thanks to Script, appreciate you. You put in the private chat. We've got the ratings. Oscar 2024 ratings. Academy Awards audience rises slightly to 19.5 million viewers. I can tell you exactly why. Barbie. That's why it was slightly higher. 19.5 million.
Cillian Murphy has a big following on social media. It's another one.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting because the year that the slap happened, which was 3 years ago?
That hurt.
Yeah, the ratings went up after the slap because people didn't know what was going on. But it says per the time zone adjusted fast national ratings, Sunday telecast drew 19.5 million viewers and a 3.8 ratings in the adult 18 to 49 demographic. By comparison, 2023 drew 18.8 million. So it was not quite a million more points, about 700,000 more people watched this year as opposed to last year. But I do think a lot of that has to do with Barbie, and everyone knew Ryan Gosling was going to sing Ken. Billie Eilish has a lot of fans too. So I think there were reasons to watch it.
Oh yeah, she'd have a few fans.
There's a few, but more mainstream movies were nominated. So that's interesting, but the bump is not a big bump. That's not like, it's not a national thing like the Super Bowl, right? Like,
no.
What can you say? I'm going to find that, but we're not going to be able to show it. You show anything from the official Godzilla channel, you're in trouble. But any thoughts on the ratings?
Well, what was last year's ratings?
18.8.
So yeah.
It's all about having movies that you've seen that you root for. Miramax killed that. And if we can get
Fear and Love, remember that?
Yep. If we can get back into that, and bless Barbie's heart. I mean, this is what needs to be done. More movies that people have seen, and if you and then you've got something to root for on the Oscars. Simple as that.
Yeah. You got to start making movies that get people to want to watch them again the next weekend.
Yes.
That's just basically it. There's so many one and dones, and it really irks me because we have a word used in this space called escapism, and that I look at that as that's the same as disposable. It just means I want a distraction from my life. And great movies aren't a distraction. They're something that we explore. They motivate us. They inspire us. We make a connection with them. To pare them down to the level of escapism is really insulting to all the people that, made a movie that people actually love. Forget about the ones that suck. Fine. They can be disposable because they tried, they failed. But the ones that succeeded, and to call that escapism, that's kind of insulting. Because, I mean, would you call the original Star Wars escapism when you were 7 years old and you see it in the theater for the first time? No, you went back more and more again. You maybe wanted to live in there, but you also took into the fact that, man, Luke Skywalker had a great family that wanted to protect him, but when they were gone, he took action and he went and fought against the people that took his family away. That's a great
Lord of the
story.
Rings. Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Lord of the Rings, yep, same thing.
Dude, I saw Batman Returns probably 7 times in the theater.
Look, I saw Infinity War 4 times in the theater. I thought that was a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
it is.
Blockbuster movie. And it's sad that we're never going to get there again.
No, but you're right. It's so important to get people to go back to the theater after they've seen the movie.
Well, when people are given an experience, I think people are going back to see Dune. Because it's truly an experience.
Dune and Avatar are definitely the only things that are doing that now. Avatar I saw 3 times in theaters. And that's the only Avatar is essential to see in IMAX. Otherwise, maybe just don't even watch it.
And in 3D.
Yeah, that's what I mean, 3D. And I actually like Avatar's story. That's another debate. But I think that made 2.4 billion.
Dune, the first Avatar is Dune. It's someone from an outer culture joins the culture, goes native or whatever you want to call it.
They go native.
But that's a story as old as time.
Right.
Conquers the dragon.
Pocahontas.
Yeah,
I mean, the Last Samurai. The Last Samurai. They reuse it over and over again because people like that story. That's why they keep doing it.
Okay, so any final thoughts before we go to our last super chats and wrap up? And we've got some really good questions in the chat.
I'm missing what do you call it? Movies by that have an individual stamp, like Jackie Chan kung fu movies. I'm missing Will Ferrell branded stuff. I'm missing individuals making stuff that is part of an era.
Keanu Reeves is doing it.
I have a prediction that I think if it doesn't win, it will possibly win Tarantino's next movie.
Yeah.
And I've heard that he's actually redoing a scene from Rolling Thunder, if you know that movie.
Wow. Yeah. I read that too.
Wait,
so is this in the Movie Critic?
In the Movie Critic, yes.
Ooh. Oh
so
my God.
My guess is that's going to be the movie to beat if
now you know the whole process of how Quentin like kind of rolls out and casts. He brought like Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt over to his place and just gave them the script to sort of hang out at his house and make the script like in an afternoon. What's that?
I think Brad Pitt's in it in the new one. That's what I've heard.
He is in it.
Who plays the Movie Critic?
I heard it's going to be Shane Gillis, but that is a rumor, and I don't. And it would be amazing, but I don't know. Don't trust it. But it's.
But to Chateau's point, I think this is what we're talking about: is a unique point of view, a unique voice.
But it's
like Yorgos has one too.
Well, what I heard about the Tarantino's so-called last movie, The Movie Critic, is that it's about a movie critic. It's set in the 70s in the era of like the Pauline Kaels and like the big critics of the time. But the guy who writes reviews for a porn mag.
Right.
And this is what they used to do, like in Screw Magazine by Al Goldstein. You might be careful if you're going to Google that. I remember Screw Magazine back in the day. It was like, that was the lowest of the low. There was like Playboy, Penthouse, Hustler, and Screw was like a news.
Oh, there were lower ones than that, man.
There were even lower.
You had Cherry.
Oh my God!
But they ran movie reviews in Screw. So I'm wondering if, knowing sort of Tarantino's affection for certain eras, because he said, when Tarantino was asked, what era is your favorite? You've made movies during different eras. And he just says, I don't have a favorite era, but anything before cell phones. He hates cell phones in movies. He hates modernity. And
there's a movie you could tell. You
want lowest of the low. I'm not going to get into the details, but when the Frantics were performing in Los Angeles back in the 80s, we were on a hotel on Melrose, and right across from us was a porn magazine place. And we went, it was huge. And we had to go in, of course. I mean, we had to go in. But there was a caged area where I will not even tell you the names of the magazines. I'll type one in.
Put it in the private chat.
I'll put it in the chat. And I saw a major movie star thumbing through the worst magazines, and I won't tell you who it is.
Put it in the chat.
Okay. I'll put it in.
All right, I love it. Let's go to the super chats here first, starting with happy birthday, Rob. Love the stream last night, says Jay for 2. What? There's nothing wrong with that. Tim Riggs says
my birthday is May 15th. That's the funny joke.
There it is.
Tim Riggs for 5 says quite a bit of Hollywood's ambition about story scope has far, far outpaced their capability to create. And Oliver Lavery Farrick for £5 says Slice of Life was a Croatian sci-fi short film that used miniatures and it looked amazing, really elevating the production values on a low budget. I'm a big fan of just low budget and miniatures models. Chris Nolan, by the way, is a big fan of using bigatures. Look up If you see the photos of the bigatures, they look like the Batmobile's like huge, but it's small.
So is James Cameron.
You'd be shocked how many scenes in The Dark Knight were from miniatures, including
the truck scene when they flipped the semi.
The truck chase, like so much of it, it's pretty incredible. And I'm seeing a movie tonight. Anyone interested? It's only screening twice. It's at the Alamo Drafthouse in LA.
Oh, what is it?
Primeval. It's a stop motion animated movie.
Primeval.
Hey,
Ramesh,
that's
Dave Allen's Primeval.
Chris,
Dave Allen's Primeval. I'm seeing it on the big screen, stop motion, and I cannot wait.
Chris, have you seen Phil Tippett's Mad God, Chris? It's really
of course
good.
I have.
Oh, it's so
I think
cool.
it's on Shudder.
It's on Shudder. Go watch it. Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet.
Question from Benjamin for $4.99. Would you guys rather do Cynthia Erivo or Divine Joy Randolph? When you say do like a drawing or
Kimmy's cast them.
Cast. Would we cast them?
On the couch.
Sure.
Yeah. Cast, absolutely.
Thank you, Benjamin. And Contrarian for 20 for 2. VTubers are embarrassing. Please remove. Well, all right. So we just did. I'm kidding.
He's just being a contrarian.
You know what? I see. This is why I like Lofty. He pokes the bear. He will ask the questions other people won't ask. He will play devil's advocate. He will take a step back. I mean, and you're also you're so dedicated to your opinion sometimes that I don't know. I heard you on Flashcast.
Oh yeah.
What can you say? Hey, and just some supporters here wanted to shout out horror scenario driver, Shriv driver for sends in a super sticker. I know you. I know. I'll see you at the meetup. 9 Thank you for that. Front Row Flynn. Hey, Chris Flynn. Shout out to Front Row Flynn. Subscribe to Front Row Flynn's channel. He films a lot of Q&As from events. Good channel. Angry Yeti TV says, "Are you aware ads are playing during your streams?" For 2, yes,
of course.
We can't. We put it on like
stream with the new TV.
They give you YouTube. I pay for YouTube. I think it's like $10 a month to pay. Ads I can't stop. You can ask them to just run as few ads as possible, and they still. Angry Yeti, my apologies.
It's a setting. You can turn the ads off. It's a new setting in your in the control panel.
I didn't see that you can turn the ads off.
You can turn the ads off because you have to say you're going to manually place them later.
That's why we do.
I didn't know about
a 6-second version so that we can play it during your stream. That's what.
You know what? We need the ad revenue. You're gonna have to stop with some ads. You'll live.
Yeah.
Don't make.
Well, you can put the ads in right when the stream's over. I mean, just wait till it processes, and you can put. That's what I do.
Yeah. Rhino Helix for 5 says the problem isn't Hollywood's ambition. The problem is ideology has mostly made Hollywood pedestrian and small. I agree with that. I think that actually an appeal to the majority of people, which whatever you think about Oppenheimer, Barbie, whatever, those films made an attempt, and many have argued, as actually Heel versus Babyface argues, that Barbie is an unintentionally very based movie. It's almost
I agree.
an anti-woke film.
No, I'm in the same pool with the Literature Devil and EVS. Like, I think Barbie is a satire that people didn't pick up on right away because it's so dystopian and it's so absurd. And Ken is your hero, and he does everything right. And
his arc is 100% subjectively subverted in the end when he goes back to being a bitch.
Yes,
can you kiss me, Barbie? Can you I understand what you're saying, but they ruined it in the third act. So I don't.
Well,
the reason they did that
is it's a message from Warner Brothers to Disney that brand integrity means everything, because the Barbie is supposed to be for girls, empowered by girls, and we're not going to change it to fit boys because that's not what Barbie is. That is antithetical to that is exactly what Disney did with Star Wars.
Well, that's why she left Barbie Land at the end of I like that part. She left. She didn't want to be in the matriarchy. She left. I
just think it's pretty amazing as a former physics major that a movie about a physicist did so well.
Yeah.
Related, so many people loved it. I mean, it's great.
I studied to see
3.5 hours.
Wait until you see 3 Body Problem. Okay, we're gonna wrap up just minutes here, but we got some good stuff. Jay says, happy birthday, Rob, and we need buzzed and rambling Rob back for 2.
Were you that bad, Rob?
And Red French Moon, but movies like Anatomy of a Fall aren't supposed to be mainstream. Bingo, Red French Moon.
Oh, it's a French
There's
movie,
some movies I love movies that they're not trying to be mainstream, but we need more Aaron Brockovich style movies that are both mainstream yet artistic.
Good point. And okay, now before we go on this, I tried to catch you on midnight on this. I wanted to. You told me in a chat that you saw Talk Show with Satan, or with
Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear.
You will love it.
The trailer looks great.
You will love it. As someone who's worked in television, it is they do this sort of mini documentary at the beginning, kind of building up to this show that aired
I'm
once.
so excited to see this.
And then they just show you the show. And an exorcist comes on and all this, it's their Halloween show. So they're like, let's bring on some crazy like Halloween people. And it gets out of control, and there's a whole backstory that they tell you in the mini doc, and it's done with like almost like a Blair Witch Project. Like you are there. We're gonna show you the tape of that night, and there's some behind the scenes footage. And David Desmolchin, I've just always loved. I think we have on the show. Like,
is he channeling Morton? That
yes. Yes,
Blair Witch was made for $60,000. This sounds like a similar, like really.
I hated Blair Witch.
Well, no, it's not quite like that. What I mean is, it's that in the sense it's like real time, an episode of a late night talk show.
Yeah,
okay,
it
looks great.
In between commercials, you're actually seeing what's happening behind the scenes, and I don't want to ruin anything.
No. I want to see it. It looks great.
Worth seeing. I think people are too quick to blame streaming or TikTok on the failing Oscars, but Oscars used to be making people dream. But in the last few years, they have their to shame us about.
They want to shame us with, I guess, with DEI shit. Is that what he's saying?
Johnny Skinwalker says
this year they didn't do that though. I felt
no.
And then Georgia Girl says, "I don't watch the Oscars. I watch Film Threat." Watching the Oscars. And final super chat here from Ryan Landis. Can you give me a woke and modern pitch for a Smokey and the Bandit remake? Also, happy birthday, Rob, says Ryan Landis.
Thank you, Ryan.
Love it. There you go. All right. Hey, plug your channels, and we'll be back. We're going to be back next week with a whole bunch of people talking about, we're going to talk about the American Society of Magical
Negroes.
There you go.
Say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll have Dante on Friday to talk
about
Here's the
thing. They are going to regret that title. I guarantee you.
Oh, it's empty.
The
theater is
regret that title.
I booked our tickets. It is literally like single seats. It's the first showing, the 7:00 show. Almost no one in it. I can't wait to talk about it.
Burbank.
I cannot wait to talk about this movie. We'll talk about it on this Friday's Film Threat.
Oh, I'm going to have a lot.
Dante will be and then Dante, subscribe to Dante Verbal Riot Show, is going to be doing a review for his channel, separate from us, which I can't wait to see. Hey, everyone else around the horn, everybody plug your channels, and there you go.
Okay. So my name is The Script Doctor. You can find me on youtube.com/scriptdoctor. And every Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, I do a show called Scripts on Saturdays, where I review screenplays currently circulating around Hollywood to let you guys know that not everything that's being made by the studios is trash. There's actually some good things out there that are looking for funding, looking for money. And these are widely available scripts that you can find online. We cover them, and you can watch and listen. Thank you.
All right. Now, Rob.
Oh, you can always find me on the Burnett Work, my YouTube channel, the Burnett Work, or find me on Instagram at RMBurnett.
Nice. Okay.
Oh, you can find me on Call Me Chato for my light entertainment takes. And for my nasty takes, go to Appalling News, which is spelled APAULING News. And I just released the latest one a few minutes ago. So, yeah, that I take on the world.
Guys, find me Verbal Riot on YouTube. The show's going to come back this week. Like Chris said, I'm going to be doing a review of the American Society of Magical Negroes. That's going to be my first show back, and I'm going to have a lot to say about it. So,
yeah, what's your qualification?
Yeah.
I'm on the screen. Lofty Pixels on YouTube, Lofty Pixels and Twitter, and we talk about gaming, movies. I like to talk about like international films a lot and just stuff that like most people aren't talking about. It's just more fun than talking about Aquaman for 10 straight days in a row. And then all right, and then go to sub to Little Platoon. Little Platoon as a really good movie podcast, everybody. If you like stuff like this, biggest show in the universe, probably. That's what it's called.
I love
He's
Platoon.
great. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
Hey, so I'm a director and I like to make stuff, and sometimes I post what I make on Instagram at Bon Iyer, and when I'm not doing that, I like to watch, like Chauncey, and I like to watch these guys. So
all right, we'll be back next week with a group of people talking about that movie we mentioned earlier.
Voldemort.
Wednesday, we're back with Alan and I on Hollywood on the Rocks. We're talking Three Body Problem, the new Netflix show, and we're talking Monkey Man, and then there you go. A lot's going on. And Paul's got balloons going. Look at that. All right. Take care, everybody. Later.